Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Thank you all for joining this webinar. In today's webinar, I will be introducing you to the concept and applications of blockchain and will be showing you a demo on how you can create your own voting application over a blockchain network. However, before I start my presentation, I want to emphasize on the fact that if at any point during this presentation you have any questions or any concerns, please feel free to ask me. You can ask your questions via the WebEx chat, which you will be able to see on the bottom right hand side of your screen, or you can unmute yourself by clicking on the mic icon and ask your questions directly to us. So let me start by introducing myself. My name is Hashim Noor and I have been working as an application and content developer for the IBM Digital Nation program for the past 2 years. And my areas of focus are AI, blockchain, and API and microservices. So before I begin with my presentation on blockchain, I want to ask you guys, have all of you heard about the IBM Digital Nation Africa platform? Is there anyone who doesn't know about the IBM Digital Nation Africa platform? Uh, we have started a poll, which you'll be able to see on the bottom right hand side of your screen, and you can send us your responses via that poll. So let me give you a brief overview about the IBM Digital Nation Africa platform. The IBM Digital Nation Africa is a self-paced learning and innovation platform which consists of four main features, which are learn, earn badges, innovate, and find jobs. On our platform, we offer a variety of courses which will help you learn and apply the latest emerging technologies such as cloud, AI, data science, etc. And on top of that, upon the successful completion of every course, you will be offered a digital badge. This digital badge is a verified proof of your achievement in learning. And these badges can be shared on social media networks such as Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and are highly valued in the IT industry. But we don't just stop at theoretical learning. We also have a wide range of project-based hands-on courses which will enable you to start building innovative solutions using the latest emerging technologies. Last but not the least, you can find jobs using the IBM Digital Nation Africa platform as well. Our job advisor tool, which is powered by IBM Watson, will help you search for jobs which is most suited for you according to your skill set. It will also help you perform a skill gap analysis and then recommend courses to you which will help you further develop your skills. Now, with that being said, let me actually take you to the website of the IBM Digital Nation Africa platform and show you what it actually looks like. So here it is. This is what the IBM Digital Nation Africa website looks like. As you can see on the home page are the four main features that I discussed earlier. And if you scroll down a little further, you'll be able to see our three main learning journeys, which is the Explorer learning journey, the Innovator learning journey, and the Newcomer learning journey. Let me briefly go over all these three learning journeys and show you what these consist of. The Explorer learning journey consists of short video-based courses which will help you learn about the latest emerging technologies and how they are being used in the industry. Moving on from the Explorer section, we have the Innovator section, which starts off with a Get Inspired page. On the Get Inspired page, you can view a variety of ideas which will help you and inspire you to build your own solution. Moving on, in the Innovator section itself, we have the Design page, which will help you get familiarized with the design thinking methodology and will teach you how to apply it when you are building your own solution. Lastly, in the Build section of the Innovator page, we have there are quite a few project-based hands-on courses which will allow you to get familiarized with the latest emerging technologies, which will help you build your own solution. Lastly, we have the New Color section. The New Color section is designed to offer the users the ability to gain key digital skills which are in high demand in the workplace. These digital skills are in line with job roles such as web application developer, cloud developer, AI analyst, etc. This section also features our job advisor tool, which will help you find jobs. Lastly, our website also features a chatbot which you can use to ask ask us your questions, and if you require any further clarification, you can click on the live chat button and chat with many of the available agents, and they'll be happy to assist you. Before I start with my presentation, let me take you through the course that will be using in today's webinar. This course is titled Build Your Voting Application Using Blockchain, and hopefully after today's webinar, you'll be able to go through this course on your own, complete all the steps, pass the quiz, and get a digital badge of your own. So with that being said, let me go back to my presentation and let's talk about blockchain. So what is blockchain? Blockchain is basically a distributed ledger technology where the ledger is shared among all entities in the network. Blockchain offers all parties involved in a business network a secure and synchronized record of transactions. The blockchain ledger records every sequence of transactions from the beginning to end, whether it's hundreds of steps in a supply chain or one single online payment. As each of these transactions occurs, it is put into a block, and each block is connected to the one before and after it. And now groups of these blocks are joined together, and thus it results in creating a chain, and that's why it's known as blockchain, right? So now let me actually tell you what a ledger is, if for those of you who are not familiar with it, which will also help you understand blockchain better. So ledgers, as you can see in the picture, is a document. Or you can say it's a record keeping mechanism which is used to keep a track of all business transactions. Ledgers, for example, can be used for effectively recording the flow of assets in and out of an organization. This ledger is updated every time a transaction occurs. So, for example, let's say if I run a business where I'm buying and selling cars, every time I sell a car, I will record that in my ledger, and I will document it. I'll document in the ledger details such as which car I sold, who I sold it to, how much I sold it to, and so on and so forth. And not just that, all parties involved in the transaction, such as the person buying the car, they will also have to update their own ledger at their end. If there is some other entity involved in the process, such as a bank, they will also need to update their ledger. And as I mentioned, these updates need to be done every time a transaction takes place. So this is how ledgers are used. And as you might be able to figure out that this system can be quite problematic at times. So this picture shows you a high level overview of how business transactions take place when you're using a ledger. As you can see, every party involved needs to maintain a ledger at their end. These ledgers are shown in the picture in different colors, as you can see. And every time a transaction takes place, all of the parties involved in the transaction will need to update their ledger. So, for example, if party A buys a car from party B, all entities involved will record their transaction in the ledger. The same transaction will be recorded by party A, party B, the bank, the insurance company, the regulatory authorities such as the government entities, and so on and so forth. And this approach has a lot of issues. Number one, this system is inefficient because, as you can see, the same transaction is being recorded by each and every entity involved, which is redundant and time consuming. And plus, if a mistake is made, it is very difficult to trace it. Moreover, because of all the redundant and time consuming tasks that take place in this approach, it makes this process very expensive as well. Lastly, this system is also prone to errors and fraud. Since there are so many parties involved, if the integrity of even one of these entities is compromised, it could affect the security of the entire system. So now that you have an overview of how the entire system functions without blockchain and you're aware of the problems associated with it, let us take a look at what blockchain is and how it can help us overcome these issues. So this picture shows you an example of a business network, how it would look like. when you are using blockchain. So instead of every entity, in this approach, instead of every entity maintaining a separate ledger, there is a shared ledger which is shared amongst all participants. This makes the process of recording transactions in a business network a lot more effective, and it results in some key properties of the blockchain network, which are as follows. So the blockchain networks provides us with consensus, which means that uh, we get to determine within the business network who gets to validate or approve the transaction before it is encoded in the system. What that means is that before any transaction is added into the system, each and every party will have to verify it. So, for example, if party A records in the ledger that party A sold a car to party B will need to verify that this transaction will actually be done in order for it to be recorded in the shared ledger, right? So this ensures that there are no sort of rogue entries or wrong entries added in the ledger, which is shared amongst all participants. Blockchain also provides us with provenance, which means that there is a complete sort of an audit trail of who owned what asset throughout throughout its lifetime. All of it is recorded in the transaction, so you can trace the transfer of asset from every party from end to end using this shared ledger. And lastly, the blockchain network is immutable, which means that it is impossible to tamper with the networks. Once a transaction is added, uh, a party cannot just go and one of the entities in the blockchain network cannot just go and change it, which keeps the blockchain network away from different kinds of fraud. So as a result of this, we have a system where we can trace each and every transaction from end to end. We do not need any intermediaries, which save us a lot of cost. The system is secure and thus it can be trusted and relied upon. And all of this provides a really big boost with business. And with that, I hope you all have a very good grasp on blockchain and why it is effective. This diagram gives you a high-level overview of how the transaction blocks look place in a blockchain network. As you can see, different blocks with details of transaction are joined with each other to form a chain. These blocks are integrated with each other in such a way that in an attempt to temper any of the blocks will make the entire chain of blocks invalid. Thus, as a result, it will keep the blockchain network safe from any malicious activities. So now that you have an idea about that, let us discuss about the major components of a blockchain network. A blockchain network is primarily composed of four main components, which is the shared ledger. As we spoke about this is the most essential feature of a blockchain. It records all the transactions across the network and is shared with all participants. Another main feature of the blockchain network is a smart contract, which defines the rules that govern every blockchain transaction. This this smart contract provides rules like which participant on the network has permission to do what, to do which action, and has access to what kind of resources, and so on. Assets are a big component of the blockchain network as well, and assets refer to the good or the commodity which is being recorded on the ledger. Participants are the different entities that are on the blockchain network, and these are sort of the main components of a blockchain network. And we'll be taking a look at all of these components, and we'll be using them during our demo. So with that being said, let us move on to the demo. I in today's demo we'll be creating a sample application, a sample voting application on the Hyperledger Composer. Hyperledger Composer is an open source set of tools which is designed to make the building of blockchain applications easier. It allows users to model business networks, assets, and transactions that are required for blockchain applications, and it enables us to implement those transactions using simple JavaScript functions. Today's demo will take place entirely on a web browser. We won't be downloading any tools, uh, and it will take place on the Hyperledger Composer Playground. This playground simulates an entire blockchain network within a browser, and provides us with a sandbox environment to test, define, and explore business networks, which can be defined on the Hyperledger Composer. So like I said, in today's demo, we'll be using the Hyperledger Composer. However, there are different blockchain technologies that you can use to build blockchain networks. For example, uh, Ethereum is one of the other blockchain technologies which is very popular and which you can use as well. So let us move on. Now let me switch to my web browser where I have Hyperledger Composer website opened. So this is basically what the Hyperledger Composer website looks like. You can access this website using the link which is provided in the course itself, the course which is available on the IBM Digital Nation Africa platform. And my colleague will also share this link on the chat. Now, in order to build your voting application on the Hyperledger Composer Playground, you'll first click on Deploy a New Business Network. Over here, then you'll select a name for your application. We can call it Voting Application. And then once done, you'll click on Empty Business Network because we'll be defining everything from the scratch. And then once that's done, we will click on Deploy. And our application will be deployed. And after that, in order to start this voting application, you can click on Connect Now, and it loads up our business environment, right? And as you can see over here, we have the model file, the script file, and the access control file. The model file is where the model file is where the the components of a blockchain network are defined. So the assets, the participants, these are defined in the model file. The script file is where the smart contract is defined and where all the rules are written under which the blockchain network functions. Okay, so for the purpose of this demo, the code that you will be using in to define the model file and the script file has already I have already written that code. But if you go to the course, you'll be able to get those code snippets from there and copy paste them there as well. Uh, so so now let me actually show you how transactions actually take place in a network, and let us sort of build a voting environment and see how voting takes place in a blockchain network. And by clicking on the test tab, you'll be able to see that the voter has been defined as one of the participants, and the assets have been defined, and so on and so forth. So let us go on and create an instance of the participant. We'll provide details about the voter. We can provide the voter with a voter ID. Let's say give them a voter ID of 1234, and the name of the voter can be. And in order to create an instance of that voter, we'll click on the Create New button. And then let's add another voter so that they can vote for different entities. And let's provide this voter with the voter ID as well. We can name it 5678. And let's say the voter's name is Jane. We click on Create New, and we have these two instances of the voters that have been created. Right. So now that we have defined the participants, which, if you guys remember, was one of the components of a blockchain, we'll now define the assets, right? So in this blockchain network, our asset is the vote. So what we'll do is our asset is the votes that the voters will cast and the political parties for which the votes will be casted. So let us create an instance of a vote and assign it to each and every voter, so that every voter has the option of casting one vote. So we'll provide we'll uh, we'll we'll put the ID of the voter, the first voter over here, and this is set to false because the voter has not cast their vote yet. We'll click on create new, and in a similar way we will assign another vote to the our second voter, which was Jane, and we'll click on create new as well. And by doing this, what we have done is that we have essentially created two votes and we have assigned them to our voters. So our voters can basically cast those votes. And now let's go back to candidate vote, which is where we'll define our political organizations for which the voters will be voting for. So let's say the the name of this political organization is Party A, right? And we'll create this one, and we'll create another organization, and we can call it Party B. And in this manner, we have defined our assets and our participants. And uh, and now let us go ahead and submit our transactions and let our participants, let our voters vote for each political party. And so uh, for that, we'll need to click on submit transaction. We click on submit transaction. Over here, we write the name of the party which the voter wants to vote for. So let's say Party A, and we'll provide the ID of the voter who wants to vote for Party B, Party A, right? So we provided the name of so over here what we are doing is we are specifying that voter with the ID 1234 wants to vote for Party A. So we'll click on submit this transaction. And if you go back to the candidate vote page, which was where the political organizations were defined, you'll be able to see that this party has one vote now. Now let us submit one more transaction. And over here, let's now vote for Party B. And let's say the other voter with the ID 5678 wants to vote for Party B. So if we submit those transactions, we'll get a pop-up that the transaction has been submitted, and now the votes of Party B have also been incremented by one. Now both of these voters have casted their votes already. So let's see what happens if any one of them tries to change their vote, right? So if you remember, the voter with the voter ID 1234 voted for Party A. So let's see what happens if they try to change their vote and try to vote for Party B this time. So they want to vote for Party B, and their voter ID is 1234, right? So once we click on submit, the total number of votes, as you can see, they don't change, right? We and this transaction will be added in the chain of all the which is the smart ledger, the chain of blocks which contain the details of the transaction, so that every party involved knows that someone tried to change one of the entries but was not able to do so. If you click on all transactions, you'll be able to see the record of every transactions from end to end. And this ledger is shared with all the participants so that they know what is going on if someone is trying to make any unauthorized changes or and so on. And you can see the details of every transaction if you click on view record. Now, this brings on to this sort of takes us to the conclusion of our demo. But before I open it up to questions, I want to tell you guys that this was how a blockchain network looks like from the back end. We created the back end of the blockchain network. Now this application, you can very easily take it. You can, if you click on the define tab and if you click on export, you'll get all of these components and the smart ledger and the smart contract that we defined. You'll be able to export it, and then you can integrate it with any of the any of the you can integrate with it with a front end that you can create on your own. So this was the back end and how things work uh, at the back, the user who's using the voting application, who's actually casting the votes, will not be seeing this interface. They'll be seeing a completely different interface that you will be defining for them. Let me show you, let me take you back to the presentation and show you sort of a high level overview of today's lab. So what we did was we created a voting application on top of the Hyperledger Composer. And then, as I said, we didn't create the front end, but you can create the front end on your own using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, whichever technologies that you prefer, and you can very easily connect it with the voting applications. So this brings us to the conclusion of our demo. I just briefly want to touch over the advantages of using blockchain for voting. One of the major advantages is that blockchain ensures integrity, which means that if every person is allowed to cast one vote only. It ensures fairness, which means that a person cannot cast a vote under someone else's name. And apart from that, votes cannot be changed once casted. Right, so these are some of the advantages of using blockchain for voting instead of going on with the traditional method of voting. So on the DNA platform, we have a comprehensive learning track about blockchain if you guys want to further develop your skills, starting with the introductory blockchain course in the Explorer section. We have project-based courses in the Innovator section, and then in-depth learning in the new color new color courses. We have a total of 8 courses and a learning material of around 18 hours, which will provide you sort of a end-to-end, in-depth, comprehensive learning about blockchain. So that brings us to the conclusion of today's webinar. If you have any questions, any concerns, any queries, please feel free to ask me. So I see that there is a question from one of our participants, and he's asking that can this be integrated with other applications? So yes, like I mentioned, you can take your business network that you defined, you can download it by clicking on export, and you can integrate it with the front end. However, if you want to use the same business network definition and integrate it with some other blockchain technologies, you won't be able to do that. So for example, in today's webinar, we created a business network definition for the Hyperledger Composer. So, and you can download that and integrate it with the front end. However, if you want to use that same business network definition for, let's say, the Ethereum blockchain, unfortunately, you won't be able to do that. So if there are no other questions, let us conclude the demo. Please join us on our Facebook page, and the link of which is you'll be able to see on the screen now, and you can access the IBM Digital Nation Africa website at www.digitalnationafrica.com. The link is also on the screen. So thank you all for joining, and all the best.